hey everybody, this is Kyle Schiffer with the Hometown Pipe Dreamers podcast. This is episode number 5. Now, you may notice that this is not Becca Johnson sitting across from me right now. This is Nate Reflect Armbuster. And I almost called you Armbutter. But unfortunately, we had to reschedule with Becca, so we'll probably hit her up next month. But we got the Nader Baiter.
Yeah, here I am.
So Nate is a DJ, music guy, actor. He does a little bit of everything. So we're going to find out.
We're a dabbler.
He's a dabbler and a dingler. So, first question.
Yep.
Okay. Where do you consider your hometown to be? If you think of home, where is home to you?
Hometown. I would say my hometown, though I've never actually lived there. I've always identified with Philadelphia.
Okay.
So even though I'm from the Valley, I mean, I'm really not even. It's a hodgepodge, but really I'm from the Lehigh Valley.
Right.
But and I identify with the Valley, but in the music that I'm into, Allentown is only really known by people in the tri-state area. So I've always, for the last 20 years, I've always said, I'm from north of Philadelphia. I'm from the burbs of Philadelphia.
Right.
The burbs. The burbs of Philadelphia, which I could easily be the burbs of New York, but I spent more time in Philly.
Sure.
My friends and I did several events in Philadelphia and a lot of friends there. So I've always just sort of said I'm from the burbs of Philly. So I would say but now in my older age, I would say, I live in Schnecksville,
Sure,
so,
sure.
Yeah.
You've settled.
I've settled
in now.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, this is sort of my gig now is, raising kids, but, and this is where we are. But, I mean, I guess it's like a combo. I identify musically with the burbs of Philadelphia, but to the local cats, I'm from the Valley.
And I imagine this is a question I'll probably ask later, but
yeah,
DJing as, in a club, not, over the internet.
Over the radio.
Over the radio, yeah,
right.
is probably more lucrative in cities, I imagine.
And it's more lucrative now.
Yeah.
Than it ever was before.
Right.
So the kids, I mean, I would say that the people that are doing it now, that are the guys that are, and the gals that have been doing it and are playing music that is really wanted to be heard in the cities are making a lot of money. I mean, they can make a lot. I mean, you can easily make a living and some.
Okay, well, let's just launch right into that. Okay, first of all, if you remember, how did you get started with DJing? Like, what drew you to it?
Yeah, so basically it all started with my love of the music. And, that started in 1990. I clearly remember when there was 2 groups that they were playing on the radio that changed there was really 3, but it was Snap, that song that, I've Got the Power.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when that was new.
Okay.
There was another group called Black Box, and they had a song called Strike It Up.
Okay.
And there was other groups like CNC Music Factory and all these different groups that were doing that stuff, but Black Box and Snap. I was just like, what is this? Because growing up, all I heard was, my mom was into everything. Rock, hip hop, well, rap at the time was which is now like old school,
sure,
hip hop and rap,
right,
but
right.
And all the dance music, but not this kind of dance. This was different. This was very rhythmic and programmed, with really catchy vocals and really could dance to it, and that really got me into it. And from then on, I was really into the dance music, the dance scene. But I was a kid, so I didn't really know where to get it all. And then, my brother, who's my younger brother, he grew up in Bethlehem, and he was more in touch with people who were into that, and he was more in touch with his creative side at a younger age. So he got me into a type of dance music called techno, and at that same sort of time, my really close friend Joe had one turntable and a mixer, a really ghetto mixer, and he was really into house and drum and bass. and at the time it was called Jungle. It wasn't called drum and bass yet, and he actually had been, as a teenager, sneaking to Allentown to a club to go party with another friend of ours. At this, there used to be a place called the Freight Yard in Allentown.
Okay.
And it at the time it was really actually a well-known spot on the East Coast, and they were getting, so he was really into that music because of that, and my brother was really into the music because he was just really into it, and so because they were both into it, it sort of ingrained on me.
Sure.
And it got me deeper into it. So they're the ones that got me into that music on a deeper level, that they really pulled me into like the underground, as I would say.
Right.
And then Joey having some of the gear and him having a passion to learn how to DJ, and then now having a friend that also wanted to learn.
Sure.
That's sort of how I got into DJing, was because my friend literally had like some of the gear.
Right.
Because that's kind of part of it. Like if you don't have this stuff, and when you're a kid, this stuff's expensive.
Right.
The turntables, the mixer, the needles that go on, all that stuff costs a ton of money.
Sure.
Which as adults it's nothing, but back then it seemed like unobtainable.
Right.
But
absolutely.
he had some, and it was like, yes,
you could play around with it a little bit.
Yes,
yeah.
we could do this, and he was kind of wanting to learn too, and he really wasn't sure. So together we sort of started to sort of learn how to DJ together, being able to take two tunes and put them together, and that's a whole learning process, and we did that together. It was a really beautiful thing. I look back on it fondly.
Right. When I was younger, it reminds me of, and this is kind of off topic.
Yeah,
I wanted a computer, like when computers were getting big. You know what I mean? Like when everybody was like, oh, they got dial up and you playing games, and like went to my cousin's house playing Doom and Quake and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And finally my dad was like, okay, we'll get you a computer, but I know a guy at work has a friend that builds computers. So I like went over to this guy's house, and he had like all these computers, and I thought it was great. Like he built me like this custom computer out of like, basically just grabbed like old parts that he had laying around and built something.
Yeah.
And I loved this thing for the longest time. Like, I don't think it worked right, but I put all these games on it. And
absolutely.
But yeah, that's what it reminds me of. You kind of, like.
Well, yeah, you had like a Renaissance sort of time. Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing.
And then from there, now it's not a huge thing to do, but I build my own computers now.
You're entrenched. I know you know a lot about them.
So, I get it. Starting out like not having access to it, and then all of a sudden you're into the world.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm in there now.
Yeah.
I
mean, not to get off on a tangent, but I can relate even with the computers. When I first had my first computer of my own, that was like a big deal,
Right.
I remember that, like sitting and talking to people on AOL Instant Messenger was like a big deal.
Oh yeah. AOL.
Are you going out tonight? No way. I'm sitting home and chatting in chat rooms, chat roulette, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was the first way to be emo on social media. If you're in a bad mood, your way message would be something.
Yeah, it would have some cryptic message.
Right. But
now everybody just does it on Facebook and just gets on my nerves with it.
yeah. We did it when we were kids.
Yeah, we did it when we were kids.
So
yeah.
But anyway, back to music. We're getting off on a tangent.
We
here.
are.
Okay, so you kind of got into it, right?
Yes.
And eventually, I'm guessing you got your own equipment, saved up, whatever.
I didn't for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. I never, when I was a kid. So I always just did. So, to be completely honest, and I can't speak to all my friends about this or about them, but a lot of my friends and I, we literally just did the bare minimum to survive, because all we wanted to do was go party.
Right.
When I say party, I don't mean like go climb a mountain and like drink beers, like, and
Sure.
which like a lot of guys I went to high school with, that's what their thing was.
Right.
No. So in my culture, the music culture that I love, is a party is more than that. It used to be called a rave. And every weekend somewhere there was a big party happening. When I say party, I mean anywhere from like maybe 1,000 to potentially 10,000 people gathering in an area and having like a mind-blowing experience.
Sure.
And that happened like every weekend. At the time, it was more prolific. We'd have to travel all up and down the East Coast to get to these parties, but we would. And so we literally like just worked enough to like just pay the bills or not even.
Right.
And And at the time, my friend Joey, my dear friend, he's like a brother to me. He finally got like another proper turntable, and he got a better mixer. Like he was the one sort of funneling his funds. He had the best job of us at the time.
Right.
And so he was able to like feed all of our needs. So it ended up being Joey supplied us like the electronic music drugs.
Okay.
In the way of gear.
Right.
And we all just spent money on our record collections, and we all stayed with him. Like, so he had a roommate, which is another friend of ours. We all basically crashed at his house.
So you guys were like a team.
It was like a team. There was
Your
a whole bunch of
combined,
us.
You were one DJ.
Yeah, there was 5 or 6 of us that
Yeah.
all just sort of like stayed together.
Right.
And used his gear for a couple years. It was like that.
Right.
And we all like kind of learned how to do this together.
So did you guys get gigs and stuff, or were you just kind of goofing around in your house?
So in the beginning, we did not get gigs. So for several years, we just were going out. We were learning what we liked, building our record collections, going out to parties, meeting DJs that we looked up to, and becoming friends with them, and making lots of friends, connections.
Right.
Growing our circle of friends, and then also coming home every day after work and on the weekends and playing and practicing and playing, and all the guys played a little something different.
Okay.
So it was a really, like, you could come over and hang out. Like, people would randomly come over and hang out, and you could hear 10 hours of electronic music, and it was all different, and it was all,
Sure.
you know, it was really cool. It was
Right.
like a clubhouse,
Right.
and everybody was just, and the neighbors below, they were deaf.
Oh,
In the apartment
that worked
that yeah, so
out.
they did come up and complain when the roof was starting to fall apart on them. The plaster came
Right.
down, but yeah, I mean, and we just rocked out all the time. So yeah, I didn't even have gear right away. That took me a couple years before I got the gear.
Sure.
And I got the gear with the help of a girlfriend at the time anyway too. I didn't even have the cash. I was still broke. I was always broke.
Right.
I was always spending money on records and going to parties and you know, these kinds of things, wrongly using my money.
Well, you know.
But it was to live the lifestyle.
Right. It was the lifestyle you wanted to live.
That's it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So eventually you got your gear.
I got my gear. Yeah.
Got some gigs.
Yep. I got some gigs. So the gigs. The gigs happened because we ended up becoming friends with a really good guy. His name's Dallas. And he was really well connected in that scene. And he was like a promoter.
Okay.
And he decided to take me on as an artist that he would promote.
Okay.
And he had a couple. He had like a stable of artists.
Sure.
DJs. We had a singer. She's a really great singer. And a couple guys that played different things. So he just started to promote me, and he got me a bunch of gigs all over the place. It started, I think my first real gig might have been in Lancaster, of all places, at this little club, not the Chameleon. It was a little dump of a club.
Okay.
It was like a private club above some, I don't even know where it was. Actually, I can think of exactly where it was, but I forget what it was called. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But he got me in there, and then once he got me in there, he got me in there again and again and again. And then as he saw me grow as a DJ and knew that I could play in the cities, he got me gigs in Philadelphia. He got me gigs in New York City. He got me gigs in Baltimore, Washington, D.C. And he got me sort of, touring around all over the East Coast. It was really cool. And I got to, I started to blow up a little bit. Not that anybody knew who I was, because at the time there were so many DJs. Right. Only some did. But I had those experiences of getting to go out and open for like international headliners and stuff. Right. That started happening, and it was amazing. Opening up for some of those guys who are, still really big names in the music, which was really an exciting time in my life.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is exciting.
It was really cool. It was really cool to work at something for at that time I had been working at it for several years with my friends, and and to be able to go do it and
Right.
be in these rooms where there's, potentially 1,000 people out there or almost, and they're listening to just me. I'm the one that's running the show, and getting done and getting accolades and people wanting to talk to me, and that was like a really fun time. Yeah.
So in essence, you're on the Hometown Pipe Dreamers podcast, but you've already kind of, in a way, achieved it. Yeah, so I think we need to stop right now.
I got really lucky.
Yeah,
I got really lucky in that regard, where I got to taste what that lifestyle was like for a while.
Right.
For a couple of years. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, touring the East Coast.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, should I ask what happened that you stopped, or?
It's not something I ever really thought about, honestly.
Or if you don't want to answer that question.
No,
okay,
I'd
too.
love to.
Okay.
Because it's kind of something I never really thought about. But after I was playing those large, they were basically raves.
Right.
Large parties.
Sure.
One-off parties thrown by a production company, booking talent from all over. That's what those kind of things were. All the while still going out and partying as a party goer as well in between with my friends, dabbling in things that are dangerous and meeting fun people and doing all these things. But as time went on, those became fewer and far, they became few, they just weren't happening as much.
Right.
And I think a lot of that was because, in the music, if you, at that time, anybody who was a great DJ could be a great DJ. And if you were a good DJ, you could still get gigs.
Right.
But then there was a time where that started to stop, and then the people who were getting gigs were people who were making music.
Okay.
They weren't just playing music.
Right.
And so even the local, like, people from New York City that I know, and people from Philly that I know, that were not the biggest stars in the music, became really hot commodities because they were making music.
Right.
And then they would play a set of music, and a large portion of it would be their own creation.
Sure.
And that started to happen more and more and more. Today, when you go out and listen to headliners in dance music, they're playing a lot of what they made, at least in drum and bass, which is the music that I play.
Right.
A lot of the guys that send me music, they're guys who go out and get a gig and play, like, all music from them and their friends, and they're all people who produce.
Sure.
So that's kind of was part of it. I didn't make music.
So the industry kind of changed.
It did a little bit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was part of it.
Right.
And I think the other part of it was, for me personally, I grew up with a bunch of guys, and I was the only one playing out.
Right.
And that was really hard for me because I knew that it bothered them. They never said that, but it was like leaving your friends behind. So,
I mean, well, let me ask you this. Like, you guys were all kind of learning this together.
Right, we all came up together.
You met this promoter, and he picked you out of...
He was friends with all of us, but he just saw that I could...
So
I was ready to go beyond.
You had the biggest potential, is basically what it was.
At that time.
Okay, yeah.
At that time, yeah. I think that's what, and he was just being a realist. He was an honest person. He was real.
Right.
And he would have given any of those guys the push that they needed if they were ready, but they weren't quite there.
Sure.
Whereas I was, ready.
Right.
And, and I have that, we've known each other for a long time. I have that, like, bombastic sort of, like, personality, and a lot of those guys aren't quite like that.
I imagine you need a
you have to sell yourself.
To be a performer.
Yeah. You have to kind of sell yourself. And when you're up on stage, you're not just a robot. You've got to be into it and keep the crowd engaged. And that's a whole part of it too. It's part of it's your music selection. Part of it's like keeping playing a nice smooth set where you're not having sneakers in the dryer. You're keeping your tunes smooth and mixed.
Right.
And then the other third of it is like you're performing. You're up on stage. You can't hide. It's just two turntables, and a lot of times it's like literally like that's it.
Right.
You and lights.
Right.
So it's you got to really You got to be there. You got to be present.
You got to be into it.
You got to be into it.
You
yeah.
can't just be like the wedding DJ who's sitting there, you know.
Right. Yeah. And a wedding DJ, you know, it's a whole different thing. You know, they put the suit on. You know, they kind of you know they act all goofy on the microphone. You know, that's
sure.
This is different. This is a little more. I mean, and nowadays, we come full circle. Now I see kids up there DJing, and you know they can't mix to save their life, but you know, but the kids listening don't know what a good mix sounds like, so it's like whatever.
Right.
You know they're just up there, they're just dancing the whole time, acting totally ridiculous. But you know what? That's what kids want to see, and it works. So it's crazy how far that has evolved.
The industry has
the DJ industry has
Mm-hmm. It's funny you're saying about the industry changing. I'm guessing this was like what in the 90s that you were late 90s?
No, so I started playing out in the early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading this book of from Edward Burns, the actor. Do you know him?
Yeah,
Edward Burns.
Yeah, Ed Burns. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Apparently, I didn't know this, but he's like started out as an indie filmmaker. Like me, from New York, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm reading this book about his life right now, and it's all about how he started out. Woody Allen is his hero, right? So he's making these Woody Allen type movies.
Hopefully, he doesn't marry his stepdaughter.
Right? Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But
yeah. Oh, Woody.
Be that as it may.
Sorry.
That's okay. So he started out, and that was kind of, he wanted to be Woody Allen, is what he wanted to do. And he acted in all of his movies and this and that, right? And he was making sort of these romantic, you know, with comedy on the light side, right?
Uh-huh.
And he got his first movie into Sundance, right? Which was like great. And then that launched his career. And he made a movie called She's the One, which for some reason I watched like 1,000,000 times on Comedy Central when it was on.
Yeah.
And it was like a pretty good, you know, romantic comedy type of movie, right?
I know the movie.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Cameron Diaz and Jennifer Aniston, yeah.
Yeah,
that was his like first big movie that he made, right? Which I didn't know, but he was starred in it. So so as he's going on, and I haven't reached the end of the book yet, so I haven't got to the conclusion of this story. But what's happening now is he made a couple movies like this, but because the industry was changing and because the movies were changing, like none of the studios would buy up his movies anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what's happening now. Like you read about spec scripts, which like people wrote scripts and sold them to Hollywood, and you know there's all these like, you know, rags to riches stories in the early 90s. But now like that's disappeared because script writers like Aaron Sorkin, and they're just trying to find work for dramas because everything's superhero movies now.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, it's just crazy how, like, you know, 10 years ago, you know, even though it has nothing to do with your skills, it's just what's in demand.
It has evolved into
that. Yeah.
Speaking of Marvel, just before we met up, did you see the video of Stan Lee?
No.
Yeah, he's like on the verge of dying, I think.
Oh, really?
He put a video up to like all the fans.
Oh.
So we'll have to watch that when we're done.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty old though. I think he's in his 90s.
He's lived a pretty good life.
Yeah.
And he's still living.
He's lived a great life. And,
yeah,
you know,
but it's a really cool video. It's really touching.
Yeah. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
so
we love Stan Lee.
Gotta love Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Nothing against comic book movies, but that's just the way things are going
that
right
is.
now.
It's amazing. All the blockbusters. I mean, at least, like, they're mostly Marvel or DC.
It's going to be like those Star Wars soon. There's going to be 5 Star Wars movies a year soon.
Yeah.
Because that's how it started with Marvel. It was like one movie here, one movie there, and then it's just going to blow up.
I know. I'm looking forward to Solo, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can catch that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, this is getting off topic. We're off topic.
We're off topic.
We're talking like we talk at work now.
Yeah, sorry.
So, anyway, back to DJing.
Yes.
Okay, so...
Sorry.
That's okay. The mechanics of it, like yes. I've never been to a rave. I've never been to a show like that.
Yeah,
so,
a big show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, is there like an easy way to describe it, or is it more complex? Like,
yeah, no, it's quite easy.
Okay.
You know, I kind of have always likened it to it's like going to a concert,
right?
In a lot of ways, you know, you generally get your tickets beforehand,
right?
Yep, Ticketmaster and all those guys, they all sold tickets to these events.
Sure.
So it was just like going to see Dave or, you know, whoever you know.
Right.
Incubus or whatever.
Sure.
The events, and a lot of the events could be outside, and they're kind of like festivals where there's usually more than one area.
Right.
So there's like a main stage where the international headliners are going to play, and generally speaking, at a rave that would have been like a house or a techno type of room.
Okay.
Because that's the widest audience.
Okay.
People love house music. I love house music. It's a different type of dance music, but it's loved by many. Even if you're not into dance music, you can walk through a room and the DJ's playing really good house and totally just start dancing right away. You feel it.
Right.
Drum and bass, it always was a side room type of thing when I was growing up. So that would be a separate area. Yeah, you'd have drum and bass artists in that separate area.
And have you always done drum and bass?
I've always played drum and bass.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always been my love.
Okay.
And to this day.
Or jungle.
Jungle is what it used to be called.
What it used to be called.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Yeah. Jungle was it was a lot more drums.
Okay.
Drum and bass is a lot more straightforward, but jungle was the same sort of progressions, but a lot more drums packed into it with a lot of different things. And jungle was just it was like a progression. Like we were talking progressions. It all started out as like UK hardcore and two-step, which was other types of dance music. Jungle sort of evolved from those things, and then that was like jungle was like that for the 90s. And the late 90s, drum and bass started to sort of shoot off from jungle. Right. And now drum and bass is what it is. And then drum and bass has 10 subgenres within it. Right. I play mostly a particular type or two of drum and bass. And there's other options as well. So,
all right. So, I guess my question should have been more specific.
That's okay.
The mechanics of like what you do on stage.
Yeah.
Is what.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so basically, as far as from my perspective, when there was like a big party, all the gear would be set up. That's already there. And there's always a stage. So, I'd get up. There's usually a backstage area. Right. And we'd hang out, and then I'd get up onto the stage when it's near my time. We get geared up. Now this is back in the day when we played vinyl. I don't even play vinyl anymore. As you can see, like on the podcast, they wouldn't be able to see it, but for the listeners out there, but on video, there's we have a laptop, and just about all DJs now, in some way, shape, or form, use their laptop to sort of do their thing. These are special records that work with the laptop.
So
it's literally these records never leave my turntables when I do my show. Okay. The tunes are actually selected in a software program.
So when you're playing these specialty records, I mean, is this when you get into like scratching and that kind of thing, or is that?
It's literally just the tracks. It's like all my records you see off to the side there. Okay. And rather than carrying a bag full of records, I can do it via the software. I actually meant to have it on. I just didn't think that.
No, that's okay. So I mean, like, so you're playing the music, right?
Playing the music.
You're talking about they don't know how to mix. What does that mean to mix?
So, the mix, the cornerstone of what we do. Now, basically, like, we have a tune playing on a turntable. Okay. You hear it. Right. You're out on the dance floor. You're jamming. Right. My job is to take another tune, put it on that turntable. Okay. Listen to it in my ear. You guys can't hear it, but I'm listening to it. And I'm taking the pitch control, which controls the speed of the turntable. Okay. And I am matching the speed of that beat to the beat that's already playing. Okay. That's the first part. And then introducing it slowly by using the volume and by using the equalizer. So each turntable has equalizers that can kill or increase the bass, the mid-range, the treble. And I'm using all these things to sort of blend into the new tune. Okay. And away from the old tune. Okay. Without you even recognizing that has truly happened. Right. In a seamless fashion.
So you don't want that bloop.
Well, yeah, you don't want like a gap. You don't want what we call shoes in the dryer, which is like when you're train wrecking, the beats aren't synchronized. So okay. There's beats flying all over the place.
That's what shoes in the dryer meant. I heard you say it earlier, and I was like, okay, we'll get to that eventually.
That's what shoes in the dryer is. So, okay. Mixing seamlessly, blending the two tunes, and that's what a 60-minute mix of me playing would be. Me doing that over and over again. And there's another part of it too, tune selection. I mean, you can't take a tune that sounds like death metal and, or something to that effect, and play it with something that sounds like, the Monkees.
Right.
That would never go. That would be called a mashup, which now has become a thing in the last 10 years, but that's not what we do.
Right.
It would be to take tunes that a vibe,
Okay.
so, if you will, and using that vibe to drive the mix and where it goes, the ebb and flow,
Okay.
and keeping everything seamless like a snake. It starts at the head, it ends at the tail. It has many curls and many dips and undulations, but at no point did you jump off a cliff to get to the next portion. It was all a very smooth, vibey sort of thing, whatever the type of music we're playing.
So a good DJ, you should sound like one whole track.
One whole track, yeah. Basically. It should sound like one smooth track with a lot of different elements, and at different times you could say, yes, I love this.
Right,
what is this?
Right.
Because you didn't hear that a few moments ago.
Sure.
And now all of a sudden it's gone, and damn, what was that tune?
Right.
Yeah. So that's sort of the deal. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. In essence, that is exactly what it is.
So when you are picking the music, say, you're playing something, they're not into it. You're like, okay, I need something with a little more pep to get them going. Are those the decisions you make when you're picking the music, or do you pick all the music beforehand and go, this is my set? Because I know these 50 songs work together, or however many, you know what I'm saying?
I do know exactly what you're saying. It's an interesting question. There's many schools of thought here.
Okay.
There's a lot of guys and gals, a lot of folks,
Sure.
we'll say,
Folks.
that do actually pre-plan their sets.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Some of the greatest do that.
Sure.
They literally, they thumb through their tunes, or they create nowadays they create a folder of the stuff that they want to play at that gig tonight.
Right.
They're playing NYC and they want to play. This is what they want to present.
Right.
I have never done that. Never in all the years I've been playing.
Right.
And I've been at the turntables now from the very beginning for 20 years.
Right.
I've never planned a set, except for when I made that one mix, which was a studio mix done in a studio setting and produced by a studio, and they made, hundreds of copies of that CD.
Sure.
But that was the only mix I ever planned, and I hate that mix. I hate it. I have never listened. I've never went back and listened to it again, because that's not how I do.
Right.
How I do is I hang out and I party.
Right.
With while the DJ before me is playing.
Right.
If we're at a party, and I see what's going on. I dance. I drink. I hang out.
Right.
And that energy that I feel, I do my best to interpret that into my set.
Okay.
And so, and I mean, I still do my radio show. I do a radio show once a week. I've been doing it for 13 years. And I still, to this day, do not... I listen to the guy who does the show before me, which for the last several years, it's been this guy. His name's Squake, Gino. And I tune into his show on my phone, and I listen to what he's doing. And then I try to get a good vibe off of what he's doing. And then I roll into my show like that.
So you're trying... I mean, do other DJs do that? Do they try to, all work together so that you guys, are... if you're creating a certain vibe, you keep that vibe going?
Yeah.
Is that kind of the idea that you're projecting?
I don't know if other guys do this. The guy before me on my station, on the station,
right.
I play on Friday nights.
Sure.
We call it Freedom Fridays.
We'll get into that then, guys, so you can check it out if you want to.
Yeah, we call it Freedom Fridays. It's something I dubbed.
Okay.
Basically, the guy before me and the guy after me, we actually do listen to each other's shows. I mean, I've never had this conversation with them.
Right.
But I know I listen to Gino,
mm-hmm.
and the guy after me is John. He's from Edmonton, Canada.
Canada, yeah.
Uh-huh. And he listens to my show.
Right.
So we do kind of have this vibey thing. We actually, all three of us play similar but different stuff.
Right.
So it works really nice for the listeners. And the listeners now come back all the time to hear our show. They listen to us all three. They listen to all three shows because they're used to us being together. They like Freedom Fridays, and they like how it kind of vibes together.
Sure.
So yeah, but even back in the gig days, that's exactly what I would do, and I would hope that DJs did that, but I know most didn't. Like a lot of guys,
They would just be in their own world, and
they wouldn't care what, like they would clear the dance floor,
right,
and like that wouldn't even bother them, and it's
Right.
just like, dude, you should really be like keeping this party hyped.
sure.
But yeah, a lot of guys just have it set in their mind what they want to do, and yeah, so there's many schools of thought on this.
Well, I can almost equate it to shot planning in filmmaking, is from what you're saying, picking the songs and stuff.
Like,
'Cause
is that storyboarding? Is that
storyboarding? Yeah,
yeah?
I don't typically storyboard because we're not doing things like huge action sequences.
Sure.
Eventually, I may, and I have driven, written out diagrams and like, okay, we're gonna move the camera here, there, and there. But, I've probably shot planned more recently than I ever did before, just because it's a little bit more convenient. But I also like to just throw some of that out sometimes and just go, this feels right here. And, the PA will be like, hey, that's not on. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about this. Like, I'm doing this thing. You know what I mean? Because, I found a happy medium. Because when I wasn't doing it at all, I'd forget stuff. And then I wouldn't have enough coverage.
Right.
But if it was too specific, I don't work like that. I'm spontaneous.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I
do.
understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, totally.
So it's that's cool. That's that you keep all of that in mind to get, you're thinking of the fans and the people out there and not your ego.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I have an ego issue, so I try to always keep that in check.
Right.
That was something I had when I was younger. So yeah, it's not about me.
Right.
It's about us. It's like the credo of my show.
Right.
I always talk about the listeners being my musical family.
Sure.
It's something we mention every week.
Right.
And I mean that, because the show, I could do my radio show, which is how I generally have. That's my artistic. That is my artistic sort of outlet now.
Right.
And I could do it and not care what anybody's doing.
Sure.
Or how the listeners feel. But that wouldn't be fun to me. I don't know how anybody else is, but that wouldn't be fun to me. So when I'm doing my show, I'm logged into our station chat room. I'm chatting.
Right.
All the while. I'm chatting on Facebook. I'm chatting on Instagram.
Right.
And
meanwhile, you're doing all of this too.
Yeah, so I'm doing I'm doing my mix.
Yeah.
When there's tunes that need to be talked about, I'm on the mic.
Right.
I'm chatting with all the listeners, which it's not that many conversations. It's somewhere between 10 and 0 conversations.
Right.
So it's not that many. It's not like I have 50 conversations happening.
Sure.
But I'm chatting. And my children will be down here having a Nerf battle.
Right.
All the while.
Of course.
So I'm getting pegged in the back of the head. And there's a fight. There's a fifth fight happening in the middle of the floor.
Yeah.
Because they only want to be down here when I'm down here.
Right.
Otherwise, it's not that fun down here. So, these are all things that are happening.
Right.
All the while. Yeah.
If most famous DJs had to deal with Nerf battles, that's a hell of a training.
Yeah, and cleaning up, because I was tidying up for you to come over.
Yeah.
I literally found Nerf darts in the studio.
Oh, fun.
Wedged into gear and things. I'm just like, how long has this been here? So all the while, we're doing all those things. But the main thing is putting on a good show and making sure it's fully inclusive to anybody who wants to interact with me during the show.
Sure.
I'm wide open. I don't close myself off. If someone wants to critique, they can critique away.
Right.
I'm used to it. Over the 13 years I've been doing the show, I've heard lots of nasty stuff thrown my way.
Right.
Lots of good stuff thrown my way, and you just roll with it.
Well, for as many good comments, there's 10 bad comments.
That's it. Yeah.
There's lots of people that are assholes out online.
And to be fair, I haven't had that many bad ones because it's a really positive community that we of are involved in. But what are you gonna do?
You still get them.
You get them.
Yeah, but no, I get it.
And that's life.
So here's one question I had, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not. Like, you're playing other people's music up on stage, and you're selling tickets, and you're,
Yep.
Is that ever, like, come into play? Like,
as a problem?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not, because that is part of the music. So when you're a producer producing music,
right,
in this case drum and bass, the thing that I know the best, the tunes are being sold.
Right.
And once you sell that tune, whether it's played at a wedding or it's played at a rave, it's you signed the tune
Right.
to that record label.
Okay.
So there's no issue because you basically, yes, it's your tune, but you granted you want it to be released, so you granted the record label permission to have that tune. Back in the day, it was to press it to vinyl.
Okay.
Nowadays, it's to put it up on one of the digital record stores.
Sure.
For purchase.
Right.
And that's how that works.
So it's just out there for you to buy, and then you have the rights to it. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't buy music. I haven't bought music in probably, I don't know, 5 years or 6 years. There's a couple tunes that I buy that I can't get.
Sure.
But almost everything that I get is from producers that want their tunes heard.
Okay.
So. And because I've been on Bass Drive for a long time, that affords me a large influx of fantastic music.
Right.
At all times, to the point where now we have a station, an interstation email.
Right.
And that corresponds with a lot of record labels and a lot of artists, and we get a lot of tunes that are totally permitted to be shared amongst the staff of the station.
Okay, all right.
So now that's where I get my music from.
Got it.
If I really want a tune from an artist that I can't get through conventional means of us getting music, I reach out to the artist, and generally speaking, they'll give them to me.
Well, you're playing it now.
I'm playing it.
Yeah.
I'm playing it. I'm introducing it. Anything that's
sure.
new or exclusive, like a lot of the music I've played over the years, hasn't been released for a couple years.
Right.
At times, but I'm miking over it.
Right.
So I'm telling the listener, this is who made this. This is what it is. It's forthcoming on this label. If I have a release date or it just came out, this is where you get it. So those are all free promotions.
Sure.
Yeah. So and there's not a lot of money to be made in our music, but so every little dollar counts.
Right.
So we do our best to make sure the artist gets their dues.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's I'm a rock guy, so it's it'd be like if you went to see the Foo Fighters and they were doing Red Hot Chili Pepper songs.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a hard concept when you're really like you yourself, you really like certain bands.
Right.
It's hard to imagine in this like litigious society how it's like this. The thing about it is that in niche musics and niche little subgenres and genres of dance music in particular,
sure.
But I'm sure it's like this in indie rock.
Right.
Very, or things like that. Exposure might be the only thing you're ever going to get.
Right.
And so you might as well put your hard work into something.
Right.
This is why DJs who make music are the thing, because that's how they make their money, is playing out.
They play their own music.
If you can get to a point where you're actually wanted to be we want that guy to play.
Right.
That's a good place in life, because now you're getting money to fly all around and play your music, because you're probably not making a whole bunch making it.
I was going to say, that is a double-edged sword, because you not only do you have to make good music, but you also have to be a good DJ.
And many aren't.
Yeah, right. Well, as you were saying before,
yeah.
Many aren't. So maybe the people don't care. They just like the personality.
They just like the artist, and they support. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, in dance music now, and like I said, there's a lot of different genres out there. A lot of those guys and gals, they can't play very well, but they make great tunes.
Right.
And that's kind of powers the industry.
Well, what I know of modern EDM, which I guess is what...
Yeah, that's what people call it nowadays.
Is that house? Is that basically what you refer to as house music?
EDM is like a dirty word.
Okay.
I don't recognize it,
okay.
but many people do.
Okay.
When I think of EDM, I think of like produced for the radio, not internet radio, but produced for terrestrial radio.
Okay.
Like our local pop station could play it on a Saturday night. That electronic music is EDM to me. I also clump dubstep into that. Yeah. So anybody who's listening to this that knows dubstep, yeah, I'm not a really big fan of some of that music, trap and those things,
Right.
And I clump all that new modern stuff kind of in that EDM thing.
Okay.
I'd like to think that we are not part of EDM. But I mean, I guess it's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose.
So is drum and bass still big, or is that kind of like
an old sock?
Yeah.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
So it used to be huge in the U.S.
Right.
It used to be huge in the U.K. It started in the U.K. That's where it came from.
Right.
But it has portions in the States that are still like hot spots.
Right.
That's really, really thriving. Philadelphia, not so much.
Not so much.
New York, not so much. The East Coast pretty much is like just barren. It was hot here first.
Right.
For many, many years, and it's just not that much anymore. But there's parts of the world where it's like still huge. There's parts of Europe where it's like unbelievable, the parties. They're strictly drum and bass. It's not any other type of dance music, and they're playing to massive crowds.
Right.
These guys who are making tunes.
Right.
And so it's still thriving, just not here.
There's just pockets of it.
Yeah, which is why people like me are growing older and doing internet radio, and just about that only. Nothing else. There's not too many gigs to go around.
Right. So real quick, I mean, we're running short on time here, so I don't want to get too far into it. But if somebody wanted to kind of get started now, as we were just saying, drum and bass is kind of a
but DJing is it's a large. There's a lot of different types of music.
You can DJ. Not EDM because that's a dirty word, but
you can call it whatever you want.
Dubstep or whatever. You know, the principles are the same.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if somebody would get started, like what are they looking at, like money wise, just to kind of get a basic setup going? Like,
well, they don't make these turntables anymore. I have Techniques 1200s. They're the godfather of turntables.
Okay.
But there's a lot of different turntables out there. So to get a set of turntables and a decent mixer, and of course you'd have to have a laptop and some software. You're probably looking at about $1,500.
Okay, that's not too bad.
As like an entry level.
Right.
Yeah. What I have before you here in my setup, my mixer alone was over $1,000.
Sure.
When it came out, but full disclosure, I didn't pay full price for that. In fact, it was kind of a gift from a friend.
Right.
As were my turntables, to be honest with you. That was from a girl I used to date a long time ago, and go Alyssa. She was awesome. She helped me get into my own gear.
Right.
But you need a modern laptop. You need software, and the software can be expensive. It can be up to like $300-400 just for like a piece of software.
Sure.
But you need that.
Right.
And then of course you have to buy all your tunes, and tunes can be kind of expensive. So.
Right.
But to get the gear that you need, you're probably looking at about $1,500.
All right, well, that's not too bad.
No.
Just to get going.
Most guys don't even use turntables anymore. They use what's called a controller, which is just like it's like a simulated version of turntables in a mixer.
Okay.
It's all digital.
Right.
And it just has little jog wheels.
Okay.
And that's kind of how the industry has gone now.
Right.
I'm sort of a dinosaur like with this stuff.
Right.
And you could you could probably get entry level stuff with the laptop and the controller for probably about that price, $1,500, $2,000.
Right.
And a lot of guys and gals do make the jump and try.
So, I mean, but you're saying now, I mean, is this still true with EDM and all that stuff? You need your own music to kind of...
You can get local gigs.
Okay.
There's lots of guys in Allentown, around, in
Right.
Bethlehem that live around us that have local gigs. I'm friends with a lot of those guys that are still doing their thing.
Right.
There's still gigs to be had, but you have to play the music that they want to hear.
Right.
Which, no one wants to hear mine. Not in this area.
Right,
So,
right.
But yeah, I mean, there's guys, there's always going to be a room for modern dance music, whatever's coming out.
Right.
Also, hip hop and rap, there's always going to be a place where that can be played, because it's very popular.
Sure.
So yeah.
So you could still conceivably be a DJ in this day and age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's still kids seeing it, and then wanting to do it, and then going out and doing it.
Right.
Yeah, that's totally a dream that people can achieve.
Right.
Even on a level locally, like a small level, which is still like a big deal, I think.
Right. Well, there you go, guys. $1,500.
Yeah.
Get cracking.
It's all you need.
So, and then find you. Your show is on Bass Drive.
Yep.
Let you promote that a little bit here.
Yeah. So to see my show, you have to go to bassdrive.com. It's each and every Friday, 8 to 9 Eastern, 7 to 8 Central. We have an archive website, so most of my shows from the last 13 years are at bassdrivearchive.com, where all of our shows are archived, and you can download them for free. And yeah, That's it. Each and every Friday, Freedom Fridays is what we do on Bass Drive. But it's we have over 60 staff members, so the music is we have live programming almost all day and almost all night East Coast time every day of the week.
Right. So there you go. If you guys listen to it, you got 24 hours of drum and bass.
Yeah, there's always there's never dead air.
So
yeah.
Well, I think I got through about 2 questions.
Sorry, buddy.
No, it's okay. We were talking about some interesting stuff. So let's end with this one. So,
yeah.
Greatest show you ever played, greatest accomplishment, greatest like it kind of the height of your DJing career. What would you think?
Pinnacle. Well, I could pick many things, but I would actually say the greatest thing I ever did was hit the 10-year mark on Bass Drive.
Okay.
That was like a big deal for me to stick something out for like that long.
Right.
And be happy and satisfied.
Right.
I played some really big gigs over the years, live gigs back when that was my thing, and those I look back fondly. But the most fun thing musically for me has been Bass Drive because it has filled my life with like musical joy.
Sure.
And that well will never run dry. As long as I'm willing to like stand up and do a show every Friday or whenever I want, I can. And there's something to be said to be like nurtured and held and caressed by Bass Drive the station. It really has kind of kept me connected to my music when it could have easily just fallen out of my life.
Right.
So when I hit 10 years, that was a really big accomplishment. And, you know, I literally cried several times during that show just thinking, wow, I cannot believe I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm still so happy about it, you know? And that was a really big thing for me. So I would say that was actually my biggest accomplishment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I listened to that show.
Did you really?
I think so, yeah.
You might have.
It was the last year or two, wasn't it?
It was. So I just hit my 13th year anniversary.
Yeah. Okay. So I knew you then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I remember you were excited about it.
And I think
Jamie and I both tuned in.
Jamie did tune in.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Because I remember I was up in the man cave listening to it while I forget what I was doing, but I had it on the background. So.
Nice. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah.
Even if you're not into it, it's good. It's good music for like studying or working, or a lot of people do that.
Yeah, probably good exercise music too.
Tons of people love. There's a whole exercise regiment in the UK where they actually do like what's the fighting thing? Kind of like I can't remember the guy's name.
Are you thinking like Zumba?
No, I guess whatever. It's like a workout thing.
Okay.
Where tons of people get together, but they like shadow box.
Oh, okay.
But while listening to drum and bass,
that's
and
cool.
They actually have a live DJ and a live MC spitting rhymes and lyrics, and they're from our music, and these people are.
There you go, man.
It's pretty cool.
You get that going in the Lehigh Valley.
Oh my god, I should.
That would be a good night gig. Go out there and
They do it like in the middle of the day, like in a park.
Oh, do they?
Or wherever they are. Yeah, it's cool.
That's pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah. So that's another way our music lives on.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this, and we're not gonna have time to get into it, unfortunately. But Nate Armbuster was in our movies. TTBOP.
Yeah.
And
I look on it fondly.
Yes.
It was fun.
He had no experience, but we're like, this guy's a character. I work with him my day job, or our day job, I guess I should say.
Yeah, we work together, yeah.
And I was like, this guy's a character. We're putting him in there. And he did great. So you can see him in Desolation. He's a total asshole in Desolation.
Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about it today.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the cocaine scene. I don't know why.
that was improv, his cocaine scene. But yeah. So definitely check him out. Actually, I even heard of all the people in Desolation, because we had a great cast and crew.
Oh my gosh,
Desolation.
so many talented people.
That was fun.
Yeah.
There's several people who were like, who's that guy that played Tony? He's my favorite. So, just the character, he's a good character actor. And, stay tuned, because we're working on another movie, and we want to bring most of that crew back in.
Oh, yeah.
And a few new faces, too, just to kind of mix these guys all up, because the ad-libbing and it was a really fun shoot, and,
It was fun.
So
I really appreciate you guys putting me in that. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
yeah, absolutely. And as soon as we have right parts for you,
Yeah,
because we got to find the right part that fits.
I know
The arm butter.
Yeah.
You know, because I understand you're not an actor in the traditional sense. You're a guy that likes to jump in and have a good time. And,
I do.
You know, sometimes we need that subtlety. Yeah, you know. And,
Yeah.
He kind of goes off the rails usually. So, but you know, again, goes back into why you made a good performer.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, acting was a lot of fun. You guys actually turned me on to something I never thought I'd be into.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun. I look forward to every time you ask me to come do something. I'm like really pumped about it.
As soon as I keep getting more delayed with getting this last project done, but eventually we'll get to it. Hopefully the fall is when I'm hoping to get it done.
Hey, you know, iron's in the fire.
I know.
It's all good. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
That's a good thing.
it is. But you know, it's been busy.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, all right. Well, thank you, Nate, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I hope everybody learned a little something about DJing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's it's a crazy world of music, but it hopefully we enlightened a little bit and shed a little bit of light on the underground.
It's unfortunately the EDM. I'm disappointed because that's huge right now. I'm like, oh, Nate huge. Could be getting back into this, but it's not.
Yeah, no,
it's different.
If I was willing to learn a new music and learn to love a new music, I probably could. But yeah.
Right.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.